Welcome. I'm Terry Christensen, and this is Valley Politics, our show on politics and public policy in San Jose and Silicon Valley. This year marks the 40th anniversary of the American withdrawal from Vietnam and the fall of Saigon, and a major migration of Vietnamese to the United States, and especially to San Jose. Today, more Vietnamese live in San Jose than in any city outside of Vietnam, over 10% of our total population. And in a relatively short time, Vietnamese voters have had a big impact on local politics. Today, we'll talk about this phenomenon with Lan Nguyen, an elected trustee for the Eastside Union High School District, and Huong Nguyen, an elected trustee for the San Jose Evergreen Community College District. Later, Santa Clara County Supervisor Ken Yeager gives us an update on District 4, and we close our show with the third and final part of our interview with Blanca Alvarado, which includes her challenges and successes as a Santa Clara County Supervisor from 1996 to 2008 when she retired. All this next on Valley Politics. Welcome everyone, and welcome Huong and Lan. Thanks for being with us today. We should probably begin by explaining that you're not actually related to one another, though you have the same surname, nor are you related to other Nguyen's who hold public office here in the Valley, right?
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
Well, let's actually begin the interview by asking you why you decided to run in the first place, and also whether being a Vietnamese candidate was in any way a challenge, because we're a city that's not Vietnamese majority. Huong, let's start with you.
So I ran for office because I had some push from my mentors. Doing a poly had been very helpful and opened up my eyes.
Poly is a leadership training program
yes.
at De Anza College, right?
Yes. And being a part of that had opened my eyes a lot, because as a social worker, I've only done direct services, and I have this thing about saving the world. And so they're like, run for office, you can do more. And it really opened my eyes a lot. I'm like, sure. I took some time to think about it, and was like, why not? You win, you lose, at least you try. And I'm thankful that I did win. A lot of hard work, and the here and now that I can make big changes that I've always wanted to do. Being Vietnamese born in the United States, a lot of things I still have to understand about our culture and tradition. So the challenge is just working with different age groups in the Vietnamese community.
Mm-hmm. Lan, what about you?
I started, how I started running for office actually started when I was attending a Vietnamese Chinese New Year at a friend's house. And that was January 2004. And I spoke to a group of friends at that person's house, and we talked about the local politics that relate to the Vietnamese community and education issues and so on. And after the party or the conversation, that group approached me and said that they encouraged me to run for public office, especially for the school district. And I just laughed it off. I said, okay, well, thank you, but you're not the first group that approached me and asked me to run. A few weeks later, I received a phone call to invite to another friend's house. There was about 15 people there. And it was much more organized. They tried to encourage me again, and basically lay out the strategies and how they're going to help me to get elected. And I said, okay, well, I'll go home and talk to my wife, and we'll let you know. I went home and talked to my wife, who was pregnant during that time. And because I was thinking that if my wife was giving birth and I'm campaigning, I don't think she'll forgive me. And she, after some time, she said, okay, well, go for it. It seemed like this is what you want to do, and people are behind you. And we took a trip, actually a cruise trip, and then come back and say, okay, well, let's do it. And that's how it all started.
So you were both sort of recruited, certainly encouraged by others to run. As you know, there are over a dozen Vietnamese elected officials here in the Valley. The Vietnamese population is only 10% of the city. It's about 12% of registered voters. Why do you think Vietnamese candidates have been so successful in recent elections? We'll start with you, Lan.
So the Vietnamese community or Vietnamese American voters are excited whenever they see a Vietnamese American running, especially if that is someone who they have known in the community for a long time. It gets the community get excited, and then if they know that person, they will go out of the way to help, to encourage and help that person win. As you know, that the Vietnamese community is quite large, and we have a lot of candidates that comes to speak to the community asking for support, and we do support those that we feel that they have good connection with us.
Who may not be Vietnamese.
Who may not be
Yes.
Vietnamese. However, they help anyway. The experience in the last probably 20 years and so on for the non-Vietnamese American candidates is that when they run for office, they come to us, and then we support them, but after they get elected, they forget us. So that's why the communities feels that it is better for us to support people who we know that will care deeply about our causes than people who only come to us when they need something. And therefore, the communities tend to be excited and feel hopeful when there is a candidate running, especially if they know the candidates well.
But of course, you can't get elected only with Vietnamese votes, right?
That is true, yeah.
So what did you do to reach out beyond that?
For me, being young, I think I had difficulty in the Vietnamese community, honestly. It's just because being a young person.
Young and female.
Young and female, yes. And the fact that I was born and raised here, and the tradition and culture, as Lang said, is something that a lot of us don't really understand. And being able to go out and get those votes from my Vietnamese community, just having to immerse myself and understand and learn helped a lot. And getting other voters is fairly easy. Being born and raised here, I adapt to this culture. My parents been here 35 years, adapted really well. And so I think it was the other way around for me. So.
The Vietnamese community is very politically engaged. Voter turnout is higher than average across the board. In the District 4 City Council race, Vietnamese turnout was double Latino turnout. So is this all really just about there's a Vietnamese candidate on the ballot? Because there isn't always. There have to be other motivations. Are there policy issues that are drawing Vietnamese voters in? Is it just the thrill of relatively recent citizenship?
So the Vietnamese American voters, especially the older generation, they came here as political refugees. They were not allowed to vote in the former country. They were being oppressed for whatever reason. Now that they're here to become citizens, they have a chance to vote for who gonna become the leaders. They have a chance to vote for candidates who have similar belief or causes that they believe as well. So it's an opportunity for them to really exercise their power as a citizen and able to make that change. So they're excited to be able to do that.
And it's true for any group that if one of your group, whether it's gay, lesbian for LGBT, or Latino for the Latino community, that draws people to vote for one of your own. But there's something more going on with the Vietnamese community, I think, because voter turnout is high even when there's not a Vietnamese candidate on the ballot. The Vietnamese community voted heavily for Chuck Reed for mayor in 2006, then more recently for Cindy Chavez for supervisor, for Dave Cortese for mayor. What do those candidates have to do, the non-Vietnamese candidates have to do to reach Vietnamese voters?
I think it's just understanding of our people and where they come from. When I was running, just seeing Dave Cortese out and Cindy Chavez out, and just embracing our culture and learning from the older folks what they need and what they want being here, because they have to leave their home. They were forced out, and to come here to make it their home and having someone outside understand, that makes it really helpful. And just getting to know Cindy and Dave, like they just coming out to things, they're so friendly. They just take in everything and enjoy it, and I think that what makes it really helpful for all of us to just love who they are.
So I'm hearing that personality matters, and reaching out to the Vietnamese community matters, and being Vietnamese helps a lot as a candidate. But are there policy issues that also motivate Vietnamese voters? Not just personalities, not just personal connections, but policy, particular policy issues?
So locally, there are a lot of local issues that are exciting the Vietnamese community enough for them to make a determination who's to vote for and so on. And as you know, that the elder Vietnamese, the one that vote, probably like people like my dad, he vote 10 election out of 10 elections.
Mm-hmm.
I mean 10. However, the things that also excite him were issues that relate to human rights, civil rights, things of that nature.
Immigration, international
immigration,
politics,
right?
yeah.
And but those are not local issues; those are more of a state or national issues. But people, if candidates that speak about it, even locally, if they speak about it, that make the community know more about them, about those issues, even though they might not have the opportunity to vote on those things, or at a local level, the voters are still drawn to them.
Of course, you're both school trustees. I'm pretty sure education is a policy issue that Vietnamese voters are very, very concerned about. I wonder about the role of Vietnamese language media in these campaigns. This is something, of course, non-Vietnamese speakers don't know about at all, but there are more than half a dozen print media and 2 or 3 radio stations. When I go to my cleaners, they have Vietnamese radio on 24 hours a day, constantly. So what's the role of Vietnamese language media in getting folks like you elected?
I think just having to have our own voice, having that media there, even for my work, just going out there and doing outreach work for doing it in Vietnamese, they listen because it's their native tongue. My parents been here 35 years and still they speak English, but they do prefer things in their own language because the wording, the linguistics are easier to understand and it's easier for them to pick up to understand. For politics, English is a lot of jargon, a lot of terms that my parents don't understand. And so having to hear it in their native tongue makes it really easy.
What about divisions within the Vietnamese community? Are there generational or partisan differences within the community?
Depends on the issues. As far as partisan, the partisan issues, even though back 20 years ago there are more Vietnamese registered as Republican, and the last probably 15 years there are more registered Democrats than Republican.
Would that be younger generation?
The younger
Vietnamese?
generation, Vietnamese younger generations. And then in the last few years we see also a lot more independent Vietnamese voters than either Republican or Democrat. So it's changing. Partisan issues doesn't impact or doesn't affect the Vietnamese American voters as much. I don't feel like it. I don't feel that just because I'm a Democrat and therefore I go to a Vietnamese American group who a majority are Republican, they will see me differently. Party line issues or partisan issues does not impact the Vietnamese American voter as much comparing to the issues itself.
Divisions in the Vietnamese community, Huong?
I think a lot of now, because being a young elected official, it is generational. A lot of the folks I know that are Vietnamese Americans are majority Democratic, and that has to definitely do a lot with
That's generational
for sure. Yeah. With older parents, it's more issues for them than being a Republican, being a partisan, independent. It just comes down to education and human rights, because that's what they have to fight for to get their kids to have a better life here.
Well, one divisive issue in the community was about the naming of the Little Saigon area. And Madison Nguyen, who was involved in that issue, nearly got recalled over it, is running for state assembly now. There are elements of the Vietnamese community who may not be so likely to support her, but she needs that support to succeed in her candidacy for assembly. Do you think she can pull together the Vietnamese community behind her candidacy?
So that issue happened in 2008.
Yes.
A lot of us who were running for office during that time. I myself was one of those people who ran for city council in 2008. That was a difficult issue for a lot of people, being a Vietnamese American candidate during that time. And not only for the Vietnamese community, but also for non-Vietnamese
Oh yeah.
community.
Well, a lot of us didn't understand what was going on at all.
Exactly, and that worked against Vietnamese American candidates. Regardless whether we support the Little Saigon or we oppose it or we in between, regardless, it hurt.
But are we past
all
that
of
now?
us. It depends on who you talk to.
Okay, let's talk to Huong. What do you think? Are we past that now?
You know, I do hear stories, you know, people remember things, and I do understand why the older generation still talks about it. You know, they left their home, and it's part of something that they can call home. And for Vietnamese Americans, like, well, I understand as a young person why she's. There's going to always be people that will support you, and there will always be people that won't. And I do wish her the best.
Well, we could talk about this a lot more, but maybe you're glad we're out of time, because we are. But Lan Nguyen and Huong Nguyen, thank you very much for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Now let's move on to neighborhood news featuring Santa Clara County Supervisor District 4 with Supervisor Ken Yeager.
I'm Santa Clara County Supervisor Ken Yeager. From Levi Stadium to Valley Fair to historic downtown Campbell, my district, which includes the cities of Campbell, Santa Clara, and San Jose, is one of the most vibrant in the county. In my role as county supervisor, I work on regional issues that range from transportation to environmental protection to human rights to public health. Our county is well known for its innovative approaches to problem solving and pioneering programs. We are on the cutting edge when it comes to public health. We will soon be launching a countywide diabetes screening effort targeting thousands of residents. Previously, we have seen success in areas such as preventing youth access to tobacco, reducing childhood obesity, and decreasing the prevalence of hepatitis B. Our county is a leader in implementing the Affordable Care Act. We've helped tens of thousands of residents gain health insurance. Our award-winning Valley Medical Center and clinics now provide care to an additional 58,000 patients. We recently created an Office of Sustainability to coordinate the county's environmental activities. This has resulted in policies for pre-wiring new homes for electric vehicle chargers, installing large-scale solar projects on public lands, and powering the County Government Center entirely on renewable energy. This year, the county will be launching an Office of LGBTQ Affairs. A recent health assessment revealed that gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender residents have been traditionally underserved by our institutions. This new office will ensure the unique needs of that community are met. Finally, I was proud to be joined this July by fellow transportation leaders in cutting the ribbon for the redesigned interchange at 280-880. After a decade of hard work and planning, the congested conditions have been improved. If you would like to contact me, please visit my website at supervisoryeager.org. Thanks for listening.
Now it's time for Where Are They Now? Today we present the third part of our exclusive interview with Blanca Alvarado, covering her time in office as Santa Clara County Supervisor from 1996 to 2008. Let's talk about your time on the county board a little bit.
Yeah.
What do you think was your greatest accomplishment on the county board? What was your biggest disappointment?
Yeah, my greatest accomplishment was the building of the health and hospital system. When I got there in 1995, the new hospital was just being built.
This is Valley Med.
Yeah, Valley Medical was just being built. In fact, I was there for the grand opening. But it was Zoe Lofgren and all of the other, Mike Honda and others who had authorized the rebuilding of the new hospital. And so I came in at a time when Valley Medical needed to change its image, public image, as a place where only poor people went, right? And it needed to change its meaning to attract other doctors to send their patients there. So Valley Medical, with its fabulous burn unit and all of its other facilities, became the focal point for the expansion of the system. So during the time that I was there, not only did we build the new Valley Medical Center, which is beautiful, but we also approved 5 new clinics, because once again, it was a matter of trying to make healthcare accessible to those who didn't have insurance. So we didn't have the Affordable Care Act at that time, and we were the ones that were taking care of the sick and needy in Santa Clara County and through our hospital. So we have built all these clinics, beautiful new clinics, and we also designed and built the specialty center. And the specialty center is really important because it is not only a center for oncologists, but it's also a diabetes center, it's an eye center, it's all of the specialty services that medical professions can provide in one setting, so that once again, doctors from Palo Alto, doctors from all over, were private or not, could send their patients to a facility that is of the best standard.
That's quite an accomplishment.
That is a big accomplishment, really a big accomplishment.
So I bet the biggest disappointment has to do with the background noise we're hearing here at your home.
Yeah, we help you. Yeah, I haven't given up on that one.
Okay.
But the other major achievement was the movement to reform the juvenile justice system. And it's really important. Again, it's just amazing when I think about it. When I was on the board, there were all of these complaints taking place from parents of kids in juvenile hall. They were picketing out there in front of juvenile hall. They were coming to the board of supervisors. They were complaining about the cruelty, the abuse of force, about the inaccessibility to visitors, all kinds of problems in the juvenile detention centers, including the ranches down in South County. Well, the juvenile detention facilities at that time were under the control of the judges. Judge Len Edwards was one of the principals, and they had as their chief probation officer a guy by the name of John Cavalli. John Cavalli was absolutely AWOL. He wasn't paying attention. So we began to notice that the parents were coming to us, and we were incapable of doing anything. Juvenile detention,
the county board,
the budget. I mean, all we had control over was the budget. So little by little, as more and more parents began to come to the Board of Supervisors, and we became more deeply aware of the issues that were going on, Pete Kutras and I, one day,
Pete Kutras was the county executive,
decided that we needed to have a meeting with Len Edwards and Ray Davila, who was the other juvenile probation judge, and Cavaldi, by this time, had decided he was going to retire, and he was going to leave at the end of July or thereabouts. So we go back to see Len Edwards and Cavalli, and we say, this guy is not paying attention to what's happening, and now he's retiring. So what are we going to do? And the judges said, well, we're going to do a national search for a new chief probation officer. But in the meantime, we'll hire John back to serve as interim. Well, we hired a new one. And Pete Kutras and I went back to the Board of Supervisors and related this incident, this account of our meeting with them. And we said, we cannot afford to have the judges in control of juvenile hall any longer. We are going to go to the voters, and we're going to have the voters approve transferring responsibility for juvenile hall over to the Board of Supervisors through the county executive. And that's what we did. That was nobody knows that, Terry.
Now
it was
they
a
will.
major accomplishment because we literally were able to take the juvenile detention and ranches away from the judges, put it in our hands, and then we began the movement to reform. And so the movement to reform included the Annie Casey Foundation. We had a huge task force of people that went all over the country to look at best practices, to get advice on what was the best way to treat juveniles and adolescents. And we came back with a remarkable new chief probation officer that Pete Kuchers hired, and the ball began to roll. Our whole emphasis was to provide more funding to the nonprofit community-based organizations that could work with these kids before getting into the system. We began to work with police departments and set up protocols on when was it appropriate to take them to juvenile hall and when was it appropriate to call the parents to come and pick up the kids. I mean, we had an enormous system of reforms. And so we were making a lot of progress. We had reduced the beds at the ranches. We had reduced the beds at juvenile hall. And 2 years before I was scheduled to be termed out, the tables were turned on me. And I say me because I was the lead on all of this reform movement. And Ken
Yeager on the county board.
And Liz
Niss on the county board.
By then, they decided, after listening to Sheila, who was the chief probation officer, that they could do a better job having the kids in the system than outside of the system. And they voted to start adding more beds at the ranches. That was my biggest disappointment, because our effort had always been, we gotta keep the kids out of the system as much as possible. And it was heartbreaking. It was actually very heartbreaking to see all of the work of judges, DAs, police officers, community-based representatives. We had an incredible movement towards reforming the juvenile justice system. And I don't know where it's at now. But yeah, it was heartbreaking. But the health and hospital system, I take great pride in having been a part of that.
Let me ask you a final question. So if you're talking to young people, and I know you do, who are thinking about careers in politics, what's your advice to them? Is this a good thing to do? Can you really get stuff done?
At the local level, if you
yeah.
take a look at the national level, you say, well, I don't know about that. But at the local level, whether it's serving on a nonprofit, serving on a board or commission, getting a feel for what is happening in your community, local politics is really where it's at. I am grateful beyond belief for having had the experience of working on the city council for 14 years and on the board of supervisors. A tremendous honor. And to this day, those were the years my life has been enriched many, many times over. But I will never forget the experience that I had as a public servant in both of those institutions. Go for it, because public service is unbeatable. It's a good place to be.
That's great advice, Blanca. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
I hope you'll be inspired by all of our guests today to become engaged in your own community. You too can make a difference by stepping forward and getting involved. Meanwhile, please visit our website at creatvsj.org or email your comments to us at valleypolitics@creatvsj.org. You can also follow us on Facebook, where you can post comments and suggest guests. And now that's all, folks. Thanks for watching Valley Politics today. See you next time.